Food security in India. So the fourth chapter completely deals about food security. What is food security? Food security means the availability of the food for all the people at all times. Why we have to stress on food security? How air is important for all of us to breathe and survive on this earth. In the similar way, we all need food to survive on this earth. But nowadays, many people are not able to get accessibility to the food. They are finding it very difficult, maybe because of their economic poverty or because of their low literacy rates, and many people in India are malnutrition. So in this unit, we will be discussing about what is food security, how the government tries to ensure food supply for all the members of the country, how it has become a right, and what are the measures taken by the government, what are the threats that are there in implementation of the Food Security Act. First of all, what is food security? The providing of food for all people in all times is known as food security. Who provides the food? It is the utmost responsibility of the government to ensure that all the members are able to get food. In this, we can broadly categorize the food security into three broad categories. One is availability, accessibility, and affordability. Availability. The food should be available to all the people at their level. The production of the country should meet to the expectations of the people. Basing on the amount of population living, the food also should compensate with the number of people living in the country. Then only we can say the food is available. If it is only available, it is not sufficient and we cannot say that we have food security. Then it should be accessible to all of them. It should be at the reachable to them. They should be able to access that one without any hindrances. One, that should be available. Two, it should be accessible to them. And three, it should be at the affordable levels of the people. If the cost of the rice or the wheat is 50 rupees per kg and the daily wage of a common man is 40 rupees per day, it is not reachable to him. So he cannot afford that one. In the similar way, these kind of situations are known as non-affordability levels. So non-affordability should not be there. It should be available to all of them. It should be accessible to all of them, and at the same time, it should be at the reachable cost for them where they can purchase that one within their purchasing limit. So food security in simple terms means availability, accessibility, and affordability. One, everybody has to get the chance for them to pursue food. Second, it should be at the reachable cost of everyone. How air is important for all of us, in the similar way, food is also very, very important for all the human beings who are staying in this world. Coming to our country, in our country we have nearly 26 million population living under poverty. So these 26 million population are born to have food insecure status. Now let us find out what is food insecure. So what is food insecurity? When people are not able to access or when they are not able to afford to acquire the food for them, that condition is known as food insecurity. Why do we need food security in our country? We have large number of population coming under the category of poor, below poverty line. So when people are affected with poverty or when they are poor, they will not be in a position to acquire sufficient amount of food for them. In order to ensure that these people will get at least 2 square meal per day, the government started to take steps to provide security for them. This is one basic reason why we need food security in our country. The other reasons are due to natural disasters. The natural disasters like cyclones, earthquakes, tsunamis, or lack of rains. These all will start to impact on the day-to-day life of the people. How can a natural disaster create food insecurity in our country? Like for example, there are no rains for a huge time. When there are no rains, the fields would become dry and the output or the production of the fields will be reduced or not there. When the output is less than the required amount of the output that is expected, then it results in the high price of the product like rice or wheat. When the product's price shoots up, that results in non-affordable levels of the common people, where only the rich people will be able to afford that one and buy that one. When the poor is not able to buy that one, that kind of situation is called food insecurity. This food insecurity will further result in drastic downfall of the lifespan of the people. And sometimes, if it continues for many days, it results in the condition of famine. And famines are affected like starvation, and people die out of starvation. This is a severe state because of the natural disasters. So when natural disasters start to impact on the countries, that will create an enormous tragedy for the people. And when people are not able to afford to get the food because of the natural disasters, because of the famines, because of the droughts, that results in the people dying because of starvation. This kind of incidents we have one in 1943 in the Bengal province, where nearly 30 lakh people have passed away. This was the only incident recorded in our country where a huge number of people died due to lack of food, died due to starvation. So the government started to take steps in order to avoid these kind of situations further. But still, in one corner or the other corner, we find some people dying due to starvation. Like for example, Kalahandi and Kashipuri of Orissa region, where there are been reports of people dying due to starvation, and also in the Baran district of Rajasthan and Palamo district of Jharkhand, where also evidences and traced that these people are dying because of starvation. So this is necessary for the government to take certain steps to stop these kind of unnatural deaths which are happening due to lack of food. So it is the utmost responsibility of the government to ensure that its all citizens are able to get at least proper food for them in order to survive, and not allow anyone to die due to lack of food. This, when we discuss about this point, I remember the words of Jeremy Bentham. Jeremy Bentham, in his book about the government's responsibilities, he has stated that the responsibility of the government starts before the birth to the after the death, that is from womb to tomb. Womb, when you are in the mother's womb itself, the responsibility of the government starts for you to ensure that you are healthy in your mother's womb, and then even after you pass away, it is the responsibility of the government to take care that your body is disposed properly without affecting any bad diseases or anything for that. So everything in your life has the importance of government to play on that. So it is the utmost responsibility to ensure that you people have to get the sufficient amount of food which is your natural right as you are the citizen of the country. That is the reason why we need food security in our country. Now, moving on to understand who is food insecure. We till now discussed what is the need to have food security in our country. Now, moving on to understand to the ground reality, where actually the people get into the situation of food insecurity. In order to understand this, There are many people in our country who suffer with poverty. Maybe because they are not accessible to them, or the prices of the commodities are not at the reachable level for them. As per the latest calculations, we have people who are suffering with malnutrition are nearly 260 million, which is 26 crore people are malnutrition in our country, and they are severely suffering with poverty. And moving on further, which sections of people are highly vulnerable to the condition of poverty or food insecurity? That is, the people those who have very little land or no land. In a village, when there is no land or very little land, you cannot do agriculture by your own, because they do not have much amount as saving for them. So they will be bound to take from some money lender some amount in order to start the agriculture work. As the season arrives, they approach to the money lender, take the money for very high rate of interest and start their work, and in turn they also work as agricultural labor in someone else's field also. So when they are doing these two works, if the output is not up to the expected level, maybe because of due to lack of rains or not having sufficient amount of water supply for the field, whatever may be, then they are bounding themselves again to reach to the money lender and pay whatever they have, and in return he charges more amount of interest and also puts certain conditions that they have to work in his own field at very less wage. So like this kind of situations are plenty in our country. This could be one of the reasons for why people are falling into the category of food insecurity. And coming to the other category of people who do not have any land. When they don't have any land, so obviously they have to work in any other one's land. When they are working in any other one's land, the condition is they will be working at the nominal wages. The government has fixed the minimum wage for an agricultural labor is 115 rupees, but still here, because of the availability of more number of people in the village and willing to work, so they don't dare to ask that even the government has fixed the wage scale, why are you not implementing that one? They simply agree to work for 50 rupees or 60 rupees as per the wish of the owner. And when they start to work, this work is also not guaranteed. It is again seasonal. Only during the harvesting season only these people will have work. So one is there are many people ready to work. Second, it is a seasonal employment. Because of these two reasons, they completely get food insecure, because one, they get very less amount paid. Second, they are not getting work whole throughout the year. And moving on to the next categories of people like destitutes who don't have anyone to take care of them. The orphans, the beggars, even the aged people are left out. Nowadays the trend is that aged parents are left out by the younger generation children as destitutes, and they spend their lives in the old age homes where they are struggling hard to get the food. And the petty self-employed people also, they start a small business or small shops or something where the income is really very less for them, and that also depends on the season, because everything is interlinked with agriculture. When people get good crop into their hands only, all the people will start and come and consume many products, so he gets more profits. Once the agriculture is not so profitable, that starts to impact on the business and he could not do much great work there. So that start to implement him, and he also comes into the category of food insecurity. Food is insecure for many groups of people like little land or no land population, destitutes, beggars or petty self-employed people, and the very low wages are paid in many urban works, like when they join as casual laborers, they are paid at very less wages. When they are paid very less wages also, they agree to work because they are migrating from villages to towns. When they migrate from villages to towns, they find it very difficult to find at least any work for them, and they have to live in the nearby bastis or stalls where the amount of rent would be very less for them, which they can afford, but the hygienic and the sanitation conditions are really horrible for them to survive. As they don't have any other alternative, they start to live there only, and later they find the work, they start like rickshaw pulling, or they'll be working in any coffee shop. Whatever the situation is, they have to work, otherwise they cannot survive. And most of the categories of people coming under the food insecurity are the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, and the other backward categories. In this OBC category, we don't have all castes falling under this one. We have only very few castes in the OBC where they are having very low income group. That families only will be called in the OBC category. And moving on further, women and children. Women are the most vulnerable groups among these entire sections of population what we discussed, because women are, as usual, men and women don't get full amount of food, but women has a responsibility of carrying the family forward. So whenever she is pregnant also, the same situation continues for them, and she finds it very difficult to have 2 square meal per day, and this starts to show the impact on the child who is in the womb of the mother. So the pregnant ladies and the young children who are in the mother's womb also are malnutritioned, and the impact on them is also very high in some parts of our country. And these all are one side. And moving on to the basic factor of poverty. What is a basic factor of poverty is hunger. Hunger is the cry of the poverty. In order to stop poverty, we need to eradicate hunger from our country. If we want to eradicate hunger from our country, the government has to ensure steps that the food has to be available to all the sections of the people, irrespective of their financial and the economic backgrounds. Now moving on further to understand why we are more affected with the hunger, because the field which most of the population in India depends itself is like that, that is agriculture. In India, agriculture, we have the seasonal cropping pattern, like in the Kharif season, Rabi season, and the Zayad season. The 3 seasons are present. Most of the places we have only 2 crops. The third is an extra crop. Now moving on into the details. In the crop time, they don't need much workers when they are sowing the seeds. They need more workers when they are doing harvesting only, or when they are doing the plowing. So the number of workers employed varies from the first stage to the final stage. And once the crop is cleared, again they don't find any employment for them, for the agricultural laborers. Once the crop is cleared, they have a gap of 45 to 60 days, and then again they start the plowing and sowing of the seeds in the field. So they nearly, again after the season is completed, again they have 2 months gap. This 4 months gap in the whole year makes the agricultural people to become seasonally unemployed. This seasonal unemployment starts to show a great impact on their day-to-day life of the people, because they don't get that much amount as it is sufficient for them to spend their 4 months without working. They barely get 50 to 60 rupees per day when they are called for work. Maybe for 100 days in a year they may be called for work. The rest of the 200 days to 250 days, they find it very difficult to find any work. This kind of situations are any number in our country. Because of seasonal unemployment, the seasonal hunger comes into the picture. This seasonal hunger is starting to show its impact in a very large scale. We have in our country, in many states, we find people suffering with hunger. The states like Uttar Pradesh, West Bengal, some parts of Jharkhand, some parts of Orissa, and some regions of Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, and even in Maharashtra in some corners, we find people suffering with poverty, hungerness, and calling or falling under the category of food insecure categories. In India, substantially, the levels of the food security figures have come down now recently, as it is shown in the charts. But now India is trying to attain self-sufficiency. Now India is heading towards attaining self-sufficiency. India, after independence, started to adopt new plans and new strategies in order to acquire self-sufficiency in the field of agriculture. So the new strategy is the Green Revolution. This, with the efforts of Amartya Sen, the new technology has been started to enter into the agricultural fields. That is, the usage of high yielding variety of seeds, HYV, high yielding variety of seeds, water or the irrigation facilities will be expanded to all the fields, and usage of the pesticides or the fertilizers in order to avoid the crop getting spoiled. So all these things were efforted in 1960, and year by year it started to take turns, like once it was introduced in wheat, later in rice, later in the millets, later in the cereals, like that. It took on continuously turns, and the journey started for the Green Revolution, and it showed a tremendous impact, and it increased the production of the wheat and rice more than double of its production. Mrs. Indira Gandhi in July 1968 officially acknowledged the production of Green Revolution has impacted the change, and it has brought a numerous change in the output what we got for the wheat in 1968. That is, in Punjab and in Haryana, it was earlier 7.23 million, and that number has gone up to 30.33 million, which is an all-time high of the production output, and it went up to 4 times larger than that one, and many lakhs of hectares were brought under cultivatable lands from the barren lands. Yes, the Green Revolution has really placed India from the poverty hit India to a country or a status where we are able to supply food for all the below poverty line people at very less and the affordable cost. But the impact of Green Revolution was not equal in all the states as it was in Punjab and in Haryana. In the states of northeastern, in Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh, the impact was really very light. And again, moving on to the downline south, in Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh, they were able to do wonders, and here also they were able to make huge output change. So India is able to attain self-sufficiency because of Green Revolution. The technique followed in the Green Revolution is that the high yielding variety of seeds were planted, then irrigation facilities were improved, then the pesticides or the fertilizers started to be added for the crop so it can grow effectively. So all these have really changed the face of India from a poverty and lack of food to a condition where we have huge stockpiles in reserve for the future. Even many droughts have affected in our country. After 1943 in Bengal, there was no such incident where people died due to starvation. Food security in India. In India, after India attained self-sufficiency because of Green Revolution, India started to get a huge amount of the stock in preserve. So India started to carefully distribute this one to the below poverty line people, and also at the same time they want to maintain a stock when there are any natural calamities, floods or anything happens, we need to secure food for them. So they had started to implement through 2 methods, that is, 1 to maintain the buffer stock, and 2 to have the public distribution system. First we will discuss about the buffer stock. What is a buffer stock? Buffer means something stored. Buffering is storing the food by the Government of India. Government of India, through its agency called FCI, that is Food Corporation of India. FCI stands for Food Corporation of India. Through FCI, the Government of India procures wheat or rice with a predetermined MSP. What is MSP then? MSP is minimum support price. Before they sow the seeds itself, before they sow the crop itself, the government of India announces MSP for the wheat or rice. So it gives a boost for the farmers to produce wheat and rice. So this MSC is a predetermined price of the crop per quinta, and government through FCI collects the wheat and the rice and stores them in the buffer stores by known as buffer stock. These are stored in the godowns of FCI, Food Corporation of our country. So buffer stock is nothing but an extra storage stored by the government of India by paying it to the farmers the minimum support price. Now you may wonder why the government of India want to procure this buffer stock. The government of India has having the previous knowledge that in 1943 in Bengal we have the severe famines and droughts which resulted in the death of the people of nearly 30 lakh people died due to starvation. So India don't want any such kind of instances to be repeated further. India always maintains a buffer stock, and which is as a safety method for us to ensure that during the time of the natural calamities or due to any disaster or in the below poverty line people, if they are not able to afford, the government sells to them at very less cost when compared to the market price. Minimum support price is a price given to the farmer. Yes, the government buys from the farmer at a high rate but sells to the people at very less cost, known as IP, that is issue price. Through this issue price, it tries to ensure that every below poverty line people and all the other sections of the people are able to acquire this food. So this is the basic duty under the buffer stock. Why this kind of situations will arise? When there is any natural calamity or adverse weather conditions, when there is no rain for during the rainy season, so the crops fail. So it results in the shortage of the production. During this period of time, the buffer stock will be brought outside and it will be distributed to the people at very nominal cost when compared to the market levels in those areas where the effect of the calamity is found. So that is known as the issue price. So through buffer stock, Government of India maintains the grains of wheat and rice in huge amount to meet any natural calamity situations or any weather's adverse effects, and preserves that one for the future needs, because here we are ensuring two things for the people. One, when the farmers are producing something, they have a guarantee that their produced will be taken by the government by paying for them. So they feel secure. And the second one, when there is any natural calamity, government can freely assure them without any stress and without any worry that these people can be taken care by providing from the buffer stock. So this is very important activity done by our government through FCI. Now, the food security in our country, the second important program the government has introduced to get food security is 1. The buffer stock, 2. The PDS. What is this PDS? The public distribution system. The public distribution system stands for PDS. Through this public distribution system, the government tries to ensure and supply food or the grains of the food for all the people coming under the category of below poverty line at very less cost or the nominal cost when compared to the market price. Buffer stock is given when there are any natural calamities or anything happens. Here, the public distribution system is a regular procedure which happens every month in the entire country. So, these shops are also known as ration shops or fare shops. Through these ration shops and fare shops, the government will provide grains of food, wheat, and then kerosene oil and even cooking oil at very less subsidized cost for the common people who are not able to buy at the market level. And we have nearly 4.6 lakh shops all over the country. And moving on further, where are these located? In every village, every town and every city we have these ration shops. And how do these people are identified that these are coming under the below poverty line? That is, every below poverty line people are given a card known as ration card with the details of the entire family members. Each member of the family will be entitled to get some benefits from the government. Like every member may get 4 kgs or 5 kgs of rice or wheat. Suppose if there are 4 members, the family will be able to get 20 kgs of rice or wheat for the family to survive for the month. And moving on, why we have implemented this food security schemes or the public distribution system in our country? When we go back to the dates of 1940s, when in Bengal the historic tragedy happened, we lost nearly 3 million people. So, India has set up a plan to avoid these kind of situations, and as per the statistics given by the National Sample Survey Organization of our country in 1970s, that the statistics prove India is still a poverty hit country. 26 crore people are still suffering with poverty and 23 crore people are suffering with malnutrition. So, government decided to take steps very fast and very severely to avoid and arrest the growth of poverty and hunger in our country. So, they brought the public distribution system and they also brought the integrated child development services in 1975, and they also brought some other plans like food for work programs, and these all are poverty alleviation programs, shortly known as PAPs. In this we also have the midday meal program, national rural employment guarantee schemes, rural employment guarantee schemes, national food for work program. Like this, there are many programs which are ensured to get that people below the poverty line will get some employment, some food for them, so that they will not suffer and they will not die due to starvation. The National Food for Work program was started on 14th of November 2005, and this is a target given to 150 districts were identified as a backward districts, and it is a 100% centrally sponsored program, and the states do not have anything to do. Just the collector is the monetary authority and the final authority to do all the allocations done for them. 2020 crores were allotted and 20 lakh tons of wheat and rice were allotted for them, so that they can distribute it for the work, to make the work to be done in the villages, in the towns and in cities, wherever it is required in the district, and they can pay in cash or in kind as per the requirement or the need of the situation. Like this, the public distribution system started to play an important role in eradication of poverty. Now moving on into the details of understanding what is the current status of PDS, the public distribution system. Our public distribution system has been very effective in the present century or the present decade. Now, the Government of India, GOI, has initiated the public distribution system initially for all. There is no discrimination between the rich and the poor. It has been made accessible to all people initially. But as the time passed on, in 1992, looking at the statistics revealed by NSSO, that there are many people who are strictly suffering with poverty and hunger state. So, in 1992, it was revised. The structure of the PDS was revised, and they started to give efficient and the targeted groups only. Wherever it is required, only for them we will start to give grains at very less affordable cost. So they brought the revised or revamped public distribution system in 1700 blocks, where they targeted the people who are suffering with poverty, who are the poorest or of the poor. And later in 1997, the TPDS, the targeted public distribution system, was brought into place, and poor in all areas, eradication of poverty, eradication of poor people in all areas was the target of TPDS, that is targeted public distribution system. So as the stage passed on, the public distribution system started to take its changes and turns, and now there is a clear division between the rich and the poor as per the statistics of the public distribution system also. How do these people bifurcate the population? Basing on their income of the family, what they receive, they have set a limit, like an income of a family which is less than 3,000 to 4,000 per month will be considered as a below poverty line family, and they will be issued a ration card which is of white in color, and the others which are able to get more income will be given a ration card which is in pink in color. So the people those are having pink in color will not be getting any subsidized amount for the rice or wheat or whatever they want to buy. They have to buy it in the market cost itself. But when it comes to the white card people, they are entitled to get the benefits which are given by the government. So government has targeted the groups who are suffering. Government has given assurance for the poor people that we are there to support you. We are there to help you to lead your life happily. So in year 2000, there are some more schemes which were brought into place, that is AAY, Annapurna Antyodaya Yojana and Annapurna Yojana. Annapurna Antyodaya Yojana is given to the poorest of the poor at very less cost, wheats or grains. Initially they used to give 25 kgs, but later they revised that one in 2004, and now they are giving 35 kgs at 2 rupees rice and 3 rupees wheat for them. And the Annapurna Yojana is given to the indigent senior work people who are living in the society. The senior citizens should not suffer. So they started to give 10 kgs of rice freely for them without any cost. So these two are the excellent steps taken by the government of India in helping the poorest of the poor and the indigent senior citizens of the country. Now moving on to analyze the working of the public distribution system. The public distribution system has proven to be most effective system of the present decade and in the past decade, where they are able to effectively implement the government policies. They are able to arrest the situations of hunger strikes. They are able to solve the problems of the people who are suffering with starvation. Though the monsoons do not arrive in time, they are giving an assurance for the people that yes, we can live by having something at our affordable cost. And this also guaranteed by the minimum support price given by the government also increase the standard of living of the people, because it is an assurance given by the government that your crop will be bought at so and so price, instead of falling into the clutches of the money lenders and selling their output at very less cost. The government has taken steps and given assurance of the minimum support price, also added to the lives of the farmers to get more confidence and live happily. But there are still some criticisms against the public distribution system. One, it is not much efficient. The stock is full in grains and it is in the stockpiles, but there are people who are still suffering, and the stock is not at the reach of the people. They maintain huge amount of the buffer stock, and sometimes it is rotten and sometimes it is eaten away by the rats. These are the two major criticisms. One is, even though we have stockpiles, people are still suffering with poverty, and in the other hand, the excessive storage of the stock has given a way for rotten things getting spoiled or eaten away by the rats. Now, as per the statistics which we discussed earlier, further adding for that, in July 2002, the FCA buffer stock required level is 24.3 million, but it maintained 63 million tons. This is nearly 2 times than what is required. And adding on further, in 2002 and 2003, the droughts has affected our country. Droughts are spread in many corners of the country. So the government started to ease and start to distribute freely using the buffer stock. And this also resulted in declining in the stocks for many years, like from 2002, 3, 4, 5, 6 up to 7. The production was not so satisfactory and the buffer stock started to decline. Even it declined for many years, the stock maintained by the FCI was really much higher than what is required. That is 24.3 is the required level, but it always maintained 30 to 40 million tons of grains. And the government schemes which are introduced after 2004 and 5 were adding some more beauty for the buffer stock to come outside so that the buffer stock can be utilized effectively. The National Food for Work program, the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme, Food for Work programs, midday meal programs, all these added to bring out the buffer stock outside and reach to the common people. And the other important affecting and a serious issue when we maintain huge amount of buffer stock is we need to have huge storage houses or warehouses, and we need to take a lot of care to take care of the grains. So the cost of caring has been increasing day by day because of the huge storage in the buffer stock and freezing of the MSP. As we have huge amount of buffer stock stored for us, the freezing of the minimum support price, which is guaranteed by the government through FCA before the crop is given, has for many years continued in the same way. This started to raise reactions from the people because every year the cost of production is been increasing, but the minimum support price guaranteed is not so much up to the required level. So they started to raise the slogans and they started to ask the government to raise the minimum support price in some states like Punjab, Haryana and Andhra Pradesh, where the production is really very high. Now moving on further to understand, when the minimum support price is guaranteed, the people of the other states also like West Bengal, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Orissa, Andhra Pradesh also, they started to leave the other coarse field crops and they started to cultivate only wheat and rice. Along with rice and wheat, the common people used to have the coarse grains, which is the staple food for them. So now this is also been started to show effect because of the green revolution and because of the buffer stock maintenance and because of the declaration of the MSP. As government is guaranteeing for them the minimum support price for which crops? For wheat and rice. So when we produce wheat and rice, automatically government only will buy. If you are not producing these two, government will not buy. So people understood this in this way and they realized that instead of cultivating any other crop or millets or cereals or something, we will cultivate wheat or we will cultivate rice. So if we do this, the government will give us certain amount as guarantee that we can sell our commodity to the government directly through minimum support price guaranteed by FCI. So as the time passed on and because of the green revolution, the people started to use water abundantly. As we discussed earlier, the improving of the irrigation facilities what brought it to every corner of our country and they started to use the water effectively. This started to show impact on the environment. They started to use the pesticides, fertilizers also on very large scale. For every hectare, 70 to 71 kgs of pesticides and fertilizers are used. They are going deep into the soil levels and the soil is getting contaminated. The fertility of the soil is coming down. This started to impact the environmental balance or the ecological balance of the region. And also the excessive usage of water started to show the downfall in the underground water layers which are present in the underground layers of the earth. So these two are also at very serious alarming rate where we need to respond for this one seriously, like how the buffer stock has been maintained and what are the adverse effects of this. We will continue further what are the other adverse effects of public distribution system. To know further about the ineffectiveness of the public distribution system, that is, as per the stock available for us, in one region it is one way, the other region is the different. One person is able to get just only 1 kg on an average. In some parts it is only 300 grams on an average, like the states of Bihar, Orissa and Uttar Pradesh, while in some states it is 3 to 4 kgs, like in Kerala, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu and Himachal Pradesh. There is a lot of disparity among the state and the other states. Somewhere you find people are able to get access to 3 to 4 kgs of rice per month for each candidate and for each member of the family, and in some parts you find only 300 grams to 1 kg. So obviously it results for the poor people to depend more on the market in order to fill their meals, and they find it very difficult because the market price is really higher when compared to the fair shops prices. And public distribution shops or the ration shops or the fair shops, always the dealers and the distributors try to play the malpractices games, like selling the stock in the open market so that they can get more margin for them, and they open the shops in the irregular timings, which is like a daytime from 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock, where most of the people will be working somewhere, so they may not get the time to come here and take the product and go. So these all are some of the techniques which are followed by the fair shop dealers, and irregular timings, and they also have lot of unsold stock with them, and this unsold stock is going waste or eaten by the rats. And the public distribution system also had certain lapses, like the distribution earlier used to be equally fixed to all the families in the town or the village, but as the time passed on, the TPDS, the targeted public distribution system, has given different kinds of cards, which has made the people to get bifurcated by the issue of the cards, the pink cards, the yellow cards, the green cards, the white cards. So the white card is the one who is actually eligible for the allowances or the benefits given by under the public distribution system. He has to pay very less cost. When it comes to the green card, they are coming under the Annapurna Antyodaya Yojana or the Annapurna Yojana schemes. And when it comes to the pink card people are just getting a market price very slightly less than the market price. So they would not be interested to come and buy the stock. So now this section of people are left out when they are coming to the shop. The other two sections of the people only are able to take the stock. That could be one of the reason why the buffer stock is so much left out, and it is ill treated or sometimes eaten away by the rats, and most of the stock unsold in the ration shops is also going waste. So government has to take the effective steps to maintain this in an effective way to implement the public distribution system. Now moving on further to the conclusion of the food security chapter, where not only the government, the role of the cooperatives is also has been playing a dominant role in order to provide food security in our country. Here we have listed out some of the examples, like what are actually the cooperatives. The cooperatives are set up with a motto to sell the products at very less cost to the poor sections of the community. That is, the cooperatives sell the food at very less cost or the low priced goods to the poor who are in need. They don't sell it for the rich people at very less cost, they sell it for the poor categories of people, below poverty line people, so that they are contributing from their side, though they don't belong to any government organization. They are private individuals, but they are doing from their side the maximum work and support what they can do to help the below poverty line people. Here we have some of them. Examples like in Tamil Nadu, 94% of the entire public distribution system is run by the cooperatives. They improve it and they inculcate the effectiveness when it is run by the cooperatives. They don't run with the profit motto, so automatically they will be service oriented. And next, moving on to Delhi. In Delhi we have the Mother Dairy, which is selling the milk and the vegetables to the people at the fixed prices by the Delhi state government. So they don't run according to the wish or interest of the prices according to their interest. They run it according to the prices fixed by the government. So here also we find the non-profit motto of the cooperatives again. And moving on in Gujarat, the success story which we all know very well, that is the white revolution was initiated with Amul, the milk, which has created wonders. So there also they collect milk from all the villagers and they supply it to the entire state, and now they are crossing the boundaries of the state also. This is another successful story of the cooperatives who have proven very successful and ensuring food security for many millions of people. And also in Maharashtra, we have the Academy of Development Sciences with the cooperation of the NGOs has set up the grain banks. Before, we used to have people who used to produce the good and they don't know where to store the stock. So they have set up the grain banks and they started to store them, and this is the most successful and the effective cooperative which has showing its impact on a very larger scale. Till now we have seen the product has been rationed at very less cost. Here they are helping to store the product safely and carefully, and now government is trying to give its dividends on a very larger scale and to set up these grain banks all over the Maharashtra state region so that the stock can be preserved carefully. And like this, the cooperatives are also playing a very significant role in bringing food security in our country. So that's all we have in this lesson for us.